Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast where we talk about all sorts of cool things and lots of fun stuff.
Yes.
You want my intro?
And today we're doing another movie.
Yes, we watched My Octopus Teacher, which is a documentary on Netflix, and I thought it was a pretty good little movie. I was interested. I've been wanting to watch it, and so I roped you into it, didn't I?
Yep. That's okay. I roped you into Star Wars.
That's true. I was gonna say both. All of the cool videos we watched.
Yeah.
But so I finally picked something. But I read on NPR. It was just a little description that I'll read now, just kind of a brief overview of it. So this is from Sam Bridger. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he was doing an interview with the filmmaker, but I liked his little synopsis. So I'll read that real quick, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
So, let's see. This is described as one of the most heartening films of the year, and it's about the relationship between filmmaker Craig Foster and an octopus he befriends while diving off the Western Cape of South Africa. Foster had been burned out from years of working on arduous nature films and decided he needed a reset, so he vowed that he would dive without a wetsuit or an oxygen tank every day for a year into the chilly waters near where he grew up to explore the kelp forest, an ecosystem teeming with life. So that's just kind of a brief overview of what we watched. So,
Yep.
As the title suggests, it's about an octopus.
Yeah, I mean, that synopsis is basically everything. It's not a very... It's a very easy film to describe.
Yeah.
It's basically
right.
like this documentarian filmed an octopus
right.
for about a year, and then the teacher parts are, reflecting on that experience.
Yeah, so it basically, I think it was at a pivotal time in the filmmaker's life, and he felt that I'm just like reaching here, but as the octopus became curious about him, he became curious about, like, he was at a time in his life where his curiosity was being stoked again, where he had like lost all motivation. He didn't want to touch film. He didn't want to do anything for a while. And then he decided to, like, I'm going to go dive in this like place of my childhood. And he did it every day, and he documented it, obviously. And and it was like he became alive and more curious as he learned more about this octopus. And it was kind of like the octopus was curious about him as well. So I guess that's why it's like the Octopus Teacher, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what'd you think about this film?
I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I like documentaries every once in a while. Sometimes I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to watch a documentary, but I kind of was interested in this because I heard it was good and just a really cool, like, I guess, underwater ecosystem, kind of gives you a glimpse into that. So I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, I didn't know what to expect from it, and going into it, I just kind of was like, I mean, obviously I know it's about an octopus, but I didn't know what about the octopus, so I thought it was kind of cool because, I love animal friends, and this octopus kind of became like, almost like his friend, What did you think?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting film. I think it has some really cool shots of the octopus.
Yeah.
And some cool shots in general, like just of, different nature wildlife. It's definitely a bit of a different take on a nature documentary in that it's more of an autobiography than your standard, at a remove narration, you get a bunch of people to shoot from a remove and then they, get a narrator to talk over it as sort of like an informational thing, and this is more of here's my life, and here's what I was doing at the time, which was nature documenting.
Yeah, and I would never think, if I was a filmmaker, I would never think oh, let me go do a documentary on my life in the sea. But I guess that's why these people are filmmakers and not me. But I thought, because this guy, Craig Foster, is a filmmaker. I thought he did like the whole thing just himself, but it was, he had a team of, he had some other directors and a filmmaker as well on his team for this. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of shots of him, swimming and, diving and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that he just, like, maybe he had an assistant and he did it all himself, but he actually didn't, which I thought was kind of cool too, because he became the focus of the film. Not, usually it was, from what I understand, his work is him filming other people or other things. So I thought that was kind of cool that he kind of turned the camera around on himself and really took a look into his life, as you said, as well as like the underwater life. So I thought that was kind of neat, but I also thought it was cool. So he's from South Africa, and he spent his childhood diving off of the coast of South Africa, the Western Cape. And so he went back to, the place of his childhood to kind of revisit and reconnect with nature. And what I thought was kind of cool early in the documentary is that he talked about how he had done this project in the Kalahari with this tribe, and it was these animal trackers, and how they were such a part of nature that they were super, I don't want to say successful, but successful in spotting animals. And that because they were a part of that nature, they could easily detect changes in nature. And he said that whenever he decided to dive every day, that's kind of what he was thinking of, about how these spotters were so connected, and that's why he wanted to dive without oxygen and without a wetsuit. So he's kind of free diving in order to be like a part of that nature, so that he can see, in diving every day, he could see the changes and what's happening. And by doing so, that's how he gained the octopus's trust. So I thought that was kind of cool, because when we had gone to Africa, we had like spotters, like pointing out animals, from the tribe there, tribal people pointing out the animals and stuff like that. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that it's so hard to like spot an animal. Like, you don't think it is, but it is. They have, the natural camouflage, so it's like super hard to see, and they can spot them right away. And I just thought that was so cool that they have that instinct and that ability to do so. So that kind of resonated with me. I was like, that's so cool. Dorking out on that.
Yeah, which, speaking of, like, something you mentioned, I don't get the diving without a wetsuit thing. I thought that was really weird.
Yes, I was like, are you crazy? Because that water, they said it got to like 46 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I was like, how are you doing this? I don't understand. But in reading this interview with him, he was saying that it took him a very long time for him to be able to thermoregulate. It said it took like almost up to a year to be able, like he said, he shivered like every day for like a year, and then all of a sudden it kind of switched off. And so he wasn't shivering anymore. His body acclimated to it, but it took a very long time. Another interesting thing he said about that in particular is that that he was able to realize that if he maybe didn't sleep well, or he wasn't feeling great, or he had an injury, his body would not thermoregulate as well. But if he, was feeling good, he had a good night's sleep, was feeling healthy, he was able to thermoregulate quite easily. So he said it kind of, his body's reaction kind of mirrored how he was feeling, either mentally or physically. So I thought that was kind of a cool note, that it's all about, your body's health and how you can adapt.
Yeah, no, I just thought, like, you're saying that, and I feel like, I've never been diving.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like wearing a wetsuit would help with that.
Yes. I know, I'm going like, what? Because he said he wanted to be a part of the nature, and he thought a wetsuit would not be, and
that's
but he was
ridiculous
saying, like,
to me.
Yes, he was saying skin diving was just, there's so many benefits to it, and I'm going like, yeah, no, like I've been like on vacation and gotten into this beautiful, beautiful water, and it's freezing, and yeah, like you get used to it after a minute. But that's like in summer months, like the water's still freezing. I can't imagine like diving every single day, especially off of the coast of Africa with the wild seas and like just I feel like it would be so cold. I don't know why you would do that without a wetsuit.
Yeah,
I mean, just for protection too, right?
Yeah. Like, if you're in real danger, I don't imagine a wetsuit's gonna do much to protect you, but, like,
yeah,
there are things that helps with.
Oh, God. I mean, I've, like, the last trip we went on last year, like, I actually went and bought those, like, aqua socks because my feet were getting so cut up, like, in the water where we were. And I just can't, like, I'm thinking you are scraping, like,
yeah.
Well, maybe it's just me. I have delicate skin, maybe. I don't know, but I'm always, like, getting scraped or, like, some kind of injury in the water. Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I can't imagine not having anything. And just, like, I don't know if you've ever felt like kelp, but
I don't think
it's
so.
like, no. It's a little gross, like, to me anyway. And I'm going, like, just having, like, the kelp, like, touching you all the time. I mean, obviously, I'm, like, a sheltered person over here, but I'm just, like, there's a bold choice to not have a wetsuit. And then no oxygen? Like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's also weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and he talks about, in this interview, he talks about how, like, he would, constantly have to come up for air, but he got to where he can hold his breath for quite a while. But he talks about how he's been in some dangerous situations and that the seas are very rough. It's called, I think, the Sea of Storms, where he dives because the waves are just so strong and has some of the best like surfing waves and stuff like that. But they just crash against the rocky shore, and that's very dangerous. But he was talking about like he's gotten like sucked into like underwater caves or like kind of stuck someplace, and he's had a couple of times where it's been, I guess life-threatening. And I'm going, and you still choose to dive this way? Like, I just don't think that's safe at all. I mean, I guess it's like being one with nature, but like, there's a reason I'm separated from nature. Like, I couldn't survive in that, So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that to be just very weird logic of like, oh, I need to take my shirt off to be one with nature. Like,
Yes, I agree completely. Like, you can still be one with nature in a wetsuit with an oxygen tank. I mean, I can see how all the equipment would be hard to navigate those shallow waters. But I would also think, like, when you're doing a documentary and you're diving into this underwater world, that you would want to stay down there longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I don't know. But it is kind of cool. I mean, like, I guess that's great for him, but I kind of laughed at that too. I was like, what were you thinking, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know. He seems like kind of a weird dude in general.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think for anyone to want to, I guess free dive with no oxygen in a pretty unsafe area in a kelp forest, I think you got to be a little bit have some personality quirks, so
yeah.
We'll say that. But I did like how he, like you said, it was kind of autobiographical in that he's talking about his own life and like how his son would kind of dive with him and just different stuff about that. So it wasn't really focused on his life altogether, like, or his son and his family, but it did bring in some of those aspects.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a cool kind of storyline to add to it. But so the main focus is obviously the octopus, right?
Yeah, we barely talked about the octopus.
I know. I was
went down the rabbit hole of free diving.
Yeah, I mean that was a questionable decision.
It's very weird, yes.
Yes. Oh, one more note about that. So I read that he can hold his breath, or he got to where he could hold his breath for up to 6 minutes. And I was like, how? I can barely hold my breath for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
But I
I
mean,
don't know.
I've
That
read
was
that
kind of
before
interesting.
in like free divers and stuff that you eventually get to where you can hold your breath for a really long time.
I just don't understand it. I can't. Even like working up to it, I feel like I don't have the lung capacity for
Yeah.
that. So, but I can't even blow up a balloon. So, I don't know. I think I have a problem. But anyway, so getting to the octopus. So, how do you feel like becoming friends with an octopus?
Yeah, it produces an interesting documentary, although there's like I was reading some of the responses to this, and that was like a criticism that came up that like
Really?
what he did is really not a thing you're supposed to do if you're like diving or doing like a nature documentary. You're not supposed to interact with wild animals in that way, and so some people
Yeah.
were like criticizing the film on those ground, like on that ground.
I mean, I get that. There was a point where, and he even said, like, I know I shouldn't have done this, but like he was trying to feed him. Like, and he like cracked open a mollusk and was like offering it to the octopus when it was injured. And he's like, I know I can't interfere, but like he was
Like,
interfering,
yeah, the whole
So,
thing is interference, which is
yeah.
actually another point. Like at one point in the middle of the film, some sharks come around,
Yes.
which like side note, I know those weren't like large sharks, but like is it not still dangerous to be around those
Yeah,
constantly?
I
Like,
mean they can take a chunk out of your leg or something,
right.
I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. Yeah, I thought that was. I mean, I know people will do, anything for the shot, but I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I don't know about that.
I mean, I don't know like how likely those like that species of shark is to mistake humans for food, but you
Yeah.
usually how shark bites happen, but
Yeah. And I think in replying to your thing about how people were criticizing like the interference in a documentary, you're just not supposed to do that. But I think like this documentary was a different shift. I think like you said, it wasn't a traditional documentary. It was about him and how he became, a part of this ecosystem and gained the trust of an octopus. So I think like that's the whole thing of the documentary. So, I mean, I guess to me, it didn't matter to me that it wasn't like a traditional documentary. I thought this was kind of more interesting than a traditional documentary about the underwater world. So I kind of thought it was cool that he was, hanging out with this octopus, but I also get the criticism as well.
yeah, like it generally speaking people think it like, the argument is bad to disturb animals like that and to try to
Yeah.
like interact with them personally. I mean, not the least of which when, you have people feeding wild animals, like that's a big one.
Right.
Everybody always says not to do because then they'll lose their fear of humans and they'll start coming around them more because they'll think that's an easier source of food. That's more likely to create dangerous situations for the animal and people, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. You're not supposed to do that. So I was kind of like, I know, but then you feel like helpless though at the same time, I'm sure. Like, I can imagine how he felt like you see an animal that's injured and you're like, I just want to help it real quick. But at the same time, I mean, like, you're killing a mollusk. You know what I mean? I was kind of like, like you're helping one animal but harming another one. So I don't really know about that. Oh, I guess it's not really an animal, but you know what I mean.
Mollusks are animals.
Are they animals? Are they like classified as
What else
animals?
would they be?
I don't know. I just feel like
A
yeah, I guess
plant?
I'm thinking I'm sorry. I'm thinking mammals, not
Yeah,
animals. I'm
no, I get
sorry.
that confused mentally sometimes too.
Yes, okay, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, that's why I was kind of like, but you're hurting one to help another. Like I don't
I
know about
mean,
that.
I didn't mean that specific situation though. I meant like the whole project of
Yeah.
like trying to befriend, I guess, a wild animal.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one of those things that I'm kind of like I don't know about that, but I thought it was cool to watch, so
Yeah.
I guess. But I don't know, are like octopuses, are they like harmful to humans at all? Like can
Uh,
they attack you
they
and
can be, I think. Well, I think it's more of a situation like any animal can be harmful. under the right
Right.
circumstances. But their their defense mechanism is going to be to run before anything else.
Yeah.
Although I think there's
Yeah.
some poison octopuses. So
Right. That's what I was kind of like. I mean, I know they can like ink you and stuff, but I didn't know. And that one was small compared to him. But I was thinking that too, because it's kind of like when you see these, like, I always think these people are nuts when they're like, befriending a lion or something. And I'm like going, do you realize how crazy you are right now? Like, you're putting yourself in danger. Like, a lion can turn on you at any second. It's a wild lion, like, in
yeah,
nature. Like, do you really think you're friends? But in this situation, I guess it's like, okay, like, he's, I guess not as much in danger. But, like you're saying with the sharks and stuff, I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of crazy. But it was entertaining to watch. So, I guess,
yeah, it's
I don't
definitely
know.
like a ethical question.
Yeah.
I think that sort of pervades over the film, but it does yeah, it is an interesting watch. It does produce like a lot of really cool film, like
Yeah.
shots of the octopus and stuff. That it I guess the question of is it worth it for someone to have done this, like even if it does present ethical quandaries.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess everybody has to ask that question, but I thought it was kind of a cool thing to do. I thought it was interesting, I guess. And it did bring up all those questions like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this the way that you're doing it? And just, I guess that kind of made it more interesting to me, though. Like, okay, so this guy's friends with the octopus. That's pretty cool, I thought it was cool. But I learned a lot in the process. So
Yeah.
I had no idea, like, all those things. I mean, I knew some stuff about, octopuses, but I didn't know that they did like the thing with the armor, like with all the shells and algae and stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. They're tool users, which is really neat.
Yeah, like I knew, like I said, some things like how they can kind of change shapes real
Yeah.
fast, but I didn't realize how they can basically like change the texture of their skin and like camouflage really well.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that they're actually colorblind, supposedly, but
Oh,
that
huh.
they can still see color and change. I don't remember what that's called, but like how they can kind of, like I said, camouflage themselves by changing
Yeah.
the color and the texture of their skin.
Right, and they also like contort themselves into weird shapes to help with that, because they're very flexible.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's
So yeah, they just
interesting.
are very good at disguising themselves as right, and that's a lot of the coolest shots I think is the octopus going up to like this rock formation or this plant
Yes.
and then like mimicking it.
Blending in. Yeah, that is so cool.
Um, but something I was going to say earlier, but got caught up with a tangent about whether sharks are dangerous or not, was that there's like pivotal scenes in this film involve shark attacks, because they're a predator of octopuses, and so like there's scenes where there's like sharks attacking, and it is really weird to me, like his decision making about this, because he doesn't, like he says, my first instinct's to scare him off, but you have to let nature play his course.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like just by doing what he's doing, he has interrupted that, and it's not like some grievous error at that point to scare a shark off from
Right.
attacking this octopus. So I
Yeah.
thought that was just really weird. Like, what is your thought process there? That that's the line you're not gonna cross. Especially when like later on, he's like, oh yeah, the octopus started incorporating me into his hunting strategy. Where
Yes.
there's that one scene of the octopus catching was it lobster?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, yeah, so the octopus maneuvered such that I would be between it and the lobster, so the lobster would be like more cut off in its escape attempt. It's like, okay, if you're like that involved, I feel like it is fine to scare off a shark.
Yes. I know. And like that would totally be my instinct, right? Like, especially like I'm doing a documentary on this octopus in my relationship. Like, yeah, I'm gonna protect it. Like, I don't know. I just felt the same way. I was kind of like, just shoo it off. But at the same time, it's like, well, are we just getting this on film? Like, what, I guess seeing what happens. I'm not supposed to interfere. So, I mean, like, not like discrediting him or anything. Like, I'm sure they had discussions about it with his little team there.
Yeah.
But I'm just, at the same time, I feel the same way. Like, I don't think it's much to just wave your hand and shoo off a shark, like, I mean, in saying that, it probably is a little scary that you don't want the shark to turn on you, right?
Like, I could see that. Like, you're afraid that if you do try to do something, the shark might attack you, but that's not, like, stated in the documentary.
No,
like, the whole concern's
no.
about, oh, well, you have to let nature play its course, and it's like, you're already interfering if that's your concern.
I guess it's like, where do you draw the line? But, yeah, same thing. I mean, I have helped, like, a bug that was getting caught up in a spider web before, and I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like, that's the spider's food, nature. But I mean, it's like, you can't help it. You're just like, no, poor little bug, And I just feel like, yeah, same thing. I probably would have, like, scared away the sharks. I mean, you're already down there. Like, your presence is already there. Like you said, you're already interfering. Like, what's the difference? And then that poor octopus, like, got its leg cut off. Or, I don't know. I guess not its leg, but you know what I mean.
Same thing for them, I guess.
Yeah. But I thought it was also very cool to watch it regenerate. So I thought that was neat. I didn't realize that they did that.
Oh, you didn't? Oh.
No, I didn't know that they did that. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. I feel like maybe way back in the recesses of my brain, I did know that, but like it just, hadn't talked about an octopus in a while. So yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. I didn't know it took so long though.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, yeah.
I guess it's not that long in the scheme of it. I mean, I can't grow my arm back, so but
that's also probably a lot of like. It's a rather complex process, and I imagine it takes time.
Right. Yeah, and I think it took like 3 months, and I was like, wow, it takes that long? Like, which is probably like an amazing, amazing thing, but I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I also thought it was neat to see when the octopus would walk, like on 2 arms, I guess, would walk across the seafloor. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've seen that before, but not, it's been a minute,
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely videos of octopuses walking like that.
Yeah.
Just because it looks neat to us to see a animal mimic being bipedal.
Right. I was like, that is so cool. I feel like the octopus has so many, like, modes, like so many ways of hunting, of camouflaging, of moving around, like I just think it's super cool to see all of that. And I didn't know that, like, when they change their texture of their skin, it's like all these little muscles that are in that the octopus has, and it's like making those little muscles move to change its texture. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. Like, how do they do this? I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. But one thing that I thought was noteworthy was in the documentary, he likened the intelligence of an octopus to like a cat or a dog. And I actually thought they were supposed to be like more intelligent than that, like than those animals in comparison. So I didn't, didn't know. I mean, either way, it's like real cool.
How do you measure that though, right? Like...
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, like, really, because, I mean, I have one cat that's pretty smart, but I have one that's pretty stupid, so...
Well, also, like, they live in completely different environments, and they do different things. Like, how do you meaningfully compare the two?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, octopuses are very clever animals, are capable of, like, doing a lot and learning about things, but...
Right.
It's like, well, how do you compare that to a terrestrial mammal that,
yeah,
lives
and
a
I think,
completely different life?
Yeah, I think, and maybe it's meant to give us a meaningful comparison, but at the same time, like, I'm comparing it to, like, a domesticated cat, because I have a domesticated cat, Whereas are we talking like in the wild or, like there's so many other questions, but I just had always heard how smart like an octopus is. And so I thought it was going to be one of those like, freakishly intelligent creatures, like smarter than a dog or a cat. But I guess in the world of undersea life, that's a pretty like high ranking intelligence there, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, it's cool to watch them do their stuff that, like, is very clever, like the camouflage.
Yeah.
And mimicry, like, that's just very neat.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool to see, because, again, like, I've seen some stuff about octopuses, but I've never, like, it's been quite a while. I just, it kind of brought everything back. I was like, oh, that's so cool, and what I also thought was cool was the environment. So, like the sea forest, you don't think about, at least I don't think about, an underwater forest and how that's different from like a coral reef environment,
Yeah.
But I thought it made for good filmmaking. I personally would not want to dive like in all the kelp, but it sounds pretty cool. Like, the way he describes it as, it is like an underwater forest. And I just thought that was kind of neat. But I was like, you're not going to catch me up in there. I feel like there's so many like animals like hiding in there. I don't know. Just, I think I'm more nervous about the sea life than he is.
Yeah, definitely. They don't mention like, are there any sea life that are potentially threatening here? Like, that's never a concern.
Yeah,
documentary, which was odd to me, but
yes, there definitely are, and like I want to know how many times did he get injured in filming this? Because again, I'm going back to like I'm always getting like scraped up or like stung by a jellyfish or like something in the ocean.
Right? Yeah, even minor things like that, like you accidentally bump into something and it bites you.
Yes, like it's just I'm kind of going. I'm sure he did. Like, I'm sure that's part of it, but, like, he doesn't address it. And then also in the beginning with talking about the Sea of Storms, as it's called, and seeing those, like, wild waves, like, hitting the rocky shore. Like, they never really talk about, like, how that impacts the diving or...
Right,
you know, like, I just was kind of like, how are you that seems so, like, tumultuous, but, like, in the filming... the water seems very calm. So is he just finding a calm area? That's what I'm assuming. He's in a relatively shallow area, right?
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
I don't know. Yeah. So, I'm guessing that's like, just finding a calm place to dive. But the very dramatic scenery, I'm just kind of like, how are you diving in that?
Yeah. Another thing I thought weird was like,
yeah,
like again, he's kind of a weird dude. Like the way he talked about like having a relationship with the octopus is like, have you never had a pet before? Like,
yeah.
Like I don't know, just some of the stuff he'd said. I'm like, I feel like every pet owner has had this like feeling before.
Yeah, especially like if you've taken in a stray. Or, adopted from a shelter that, like, a street cat, like, or anything. There's a difference in those types of animals that you do have to gain their trust, before you can, be friends with it. So I thought that was kind of funny, too, because I'm like, yeah, I think it's really cool that he was able to do that. But like you said, when you have pets, goodness, I, like... see stray animals in my yard all the time and I like give them names and act like they're friendly, like I was a little taken aback by that as well.
Like I think especially when the octopus is hurt and he's like going over like how distraught he was and he's like he's never really felt that before and I'm like I just didn't get that. Like I feel like yeah, that's basic emotions, right? You get upset when this animal you care about is hurt.
Well, especially from this, like, creature that he's spending every day with. Like, of course you're gonna be upset when it gets hurt and you see a predator coming after it, But it's just, like, I thought that was funny, too. But I think you're right. And I think sometimes people, like, I remember one of my friends like had pets growing up, but it wasn't like they were close to their pets. Like the dogs like lived outside only. Like her dad was the only one who fed the dogs. Like it was kind of like they were their pets, but they weren't close at all. And I just found that to be a foreign concept as well, because like I basically force my animals to be my BFFs. So I was like, what? But maybe it's like that kind of situation where he's never had like a close pet friend. I don't know.
I mean, not everybody
Sounds
has
weird.
pets, so.
Yeah, but like you said, it's a natural emotion anyway when you see something that you care about get hurt, you know? So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think he is definitely a weird dude, though. There's just a lot of comments made that I'm like, I have an interesting perspective on the world.
Yeah, I definitely felt that as well. But at the same time, I was like, you know, I'm glad that this experience, like, gave you your, you know, joie de vivre again. You know, like, I'm so glad that you're able to get motivation and your curiosity back and, like, translate that to your relationship with your family. Like, it's like, I don't know what was going on in his life, but through this, he's able to, you know, enjoy life again is kind of the sense that I got. So I was like, yeah, he's definitely an interesting guy, but I'm glad that he was able to find some joy from this, I guess, you know. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing for him. But also, this movie won, like, all kinds of awards. Like, I think
I think it won the Oscar for Best Documentary, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it won like 60 international awards, I read. I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know they had that many international awards. But
Well, there's a lot of countries, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. And I'm going like, you know, I guess taking a break from filmmaking and then doing this, like, I mean, he had the right idea. But I think, like you said, the perspective on this was different than most documentaries. And I think that's why, you know, he got this. So
Yeah.
I would say most nature documentaries, he got all that critical acclaim. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yes. I guess that has been my Octopus Teacher. You got any other notes on that?
I mean, we can get into some more of the criticisms of it if you want. I read some. So beyond the like ethical concerns with the like that I mentioned earlier, that you're not supposed to have relationships with wild animals like that and interfere like that. Some people thought it was like pretentious and kind of like because it's an autobiography, they went in expecting like a documentary about an octopus that's more like traditional and more like educational focused rather than narrative like it was. And I know some people didn't like that aspect of it.
What did you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like this is like a thing sometimes documentaries do. Like, I don't know, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure I've read about documentaries that like do this, that take the more autobiographical approach. So I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of this before. That's not like surprising to me, but I can definitely see like going into this expecting like a more traditional nature documentary.
Yeah.
And then like, especially because he's a weird guy. I can see some people being more off-put by that weirdness than others, and being like, I wanted an octopus facts, not this guy's weird midlife crisis.
Right, exactly. I definitely get that. I honestly, like I said, didn't really know what to expect. But I did think it would be more centered on the octopus. And it was, I mean, somewhat. It was also somewhat centered on his life. And so I think it kind of, to me, it didn't really hit either thing, like, specifically. And so it was a little, like, in watching it, it was a little up in the air, like, what am I getting from this? So I get that, but at the same time, like, I watched it, I was interested, So it was a weird mix, I think, of what it was about. And it could be, I know a lot of times when people start filming stuff, they kind of hit on a different angle and they run with it. Yeah. So maybe it was kind of like that type of thing.
The story that's implied by his narration.
Yeah.
That at first he was just gonna, like, get back to filming about, diving, something he did as a child, and that in the process of doing that, he found this octopus.
Yeah. So it kind of turned to that, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more, like the title implies, the octopus teaching him something, which I guess he did in a way about life, but I thought it was going to be more
direct.
Yeah, right. I guess it was like the octopus would be, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Maybe like how cats will like try to leave animals for you to teach you how to hunt.
Yes, or like communicate with you. And I mean, I know the octopus was communicating with him, but I thought it would be more of a like direct kind of thing, like you said. So that was definitely, one of those kinds of things. But
yeah.
Also,
as part of that, because there's a lot of poetic language, I guess. There's a lot of like waxing philosophical about like stuff like descriptions of the octopus or of the like environment and like reflecting on the time spent that definitely felt I'm trying to think of how I should phrase this, but like it didn't bother me most of the time, but some of it was kind of like, okay, this is a tad bit much, like you could tone down the flowery language a bit.
Yeah, like almost like romanticizing the whole thing. I definitely understand what you're saying with that, because I feel like in reality, and as somebody who is not I would say a nature person per se, like I love nature, but I also love the comforts of, modernization. So I was thinking the whole time, like he was speaking about this whole thing very poetically, as you say. And I'm thinking the reality of it has got to be not glamorous at all, okay? Like you're freezing in the water, you're holding your breath for several minutes at a time. You have to keep going up to the surface and go back down, up to the surface and go back down. You're in, an environment that is, to me, like a little dangerous. Well, obviously a lot dangerous.
Yes, definitely.
He kind of says.
Like divers get stuck in places or get pulled by currents and die all the time. Like, it's not always safe.
No, it's not. And you have like situations where you could get like the bends and stuff like that, like some physical like definite problems
pressure
there.
Sickness.
Yes, and I'm just kind of going like the reality of what he's talking about cannot be that beautiful and poetic. Was it just to, sell it for the documentary?
Well, yeah,
or
obviously
it seemed like
you're not
it was
gonna.
Right. I mean, but to me, I'm kind of going like, okay, but it had to be super freezing. Like, you look miserable, I don't know.
Not just that, though. Like, not just the, like, perilous things, but, like, there's gotta be a lot of times in that where you're just, going around filming stuff and you don't see anything at all interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, like, the most you see is, like, a few random sea creatures that you already have hundreds of shots of. That, like, that's not...
Well, exactly. And you know that this is the highlight reel, right? And it's not that much from a whole year of diving every single day. You're seeing the highlight reel. And so it had to be super boring at times, right?
Yeah. Like, you're just sitting there trying to find something, and it's like,
yeah.
It's just
yeah, but
water.
I mean, I think about the filmmaker's job is to tell the story.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think you did a great job of that. But like you said, at times it seemed, I don't want to say inauthentic, because I really felt like he did have those emotions. I mean, whether it's good acting or not, I don't know. But it was a little like you said, you're kind of waxing poetic about something that's probably not that cool.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like something that was like, I mean, maybe it was just him, but that like a group of people sat down and wrote about after the fact to try to punch it up a bit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, makes a lot of sense for a documentary, but...
Right, they did a great job of it, but yeah, I agree. I mean, and I say that, but I also do think the underwater realm is super like mysterious and interesting. So I'm kind of on the fence on that. Like the reality had to be a little gruesome, but I do think it is, super cool to explore, the underwater world. So because there's just so much we don't know about. And
yeah.
like I think he said at one point, I don't know if he said this in a documentary, if it was something I read, but that it had never really been documented, the octopus doing that armoring thing where they change their shape and take all those rocks and stuff and put it over themselves. And I'm going, how has that not been documented before? But you do read a lot about all the stuff that happens underwater that isn't greatly documented, you know? So it's possible.
Right, and I mean, I imagine most of our in-depth studies of octopus come from them in captivity, where they're not going to have access to a bunch of shells.
Right. Yeah, and so part of his team, he also worked with this octopus expert. And so I'm going, well, if the octopus expert, from a university is saying that, yeah, we've never really documented this before, like, I'm sure he has good authority on that, you know? So, I mean, it was a lady, but I mean, he as the filmmaker has good authority in saying that. So anyway, I just was like, whoa, that's really cool that he captured something that may not have been captured before.
Yep. Well, all right. I guess I don't have anything else. Do you?
Yeah, I think we've exhausted this subject. So yeah, that has been my Octopus Teacher.
Yeah, so I'll take us out then.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, that has been Beach View, our podcast. I just realized in saying that we did a documentary about the ocean. And
we did.
That fits with our podcast title.
We finally hit the podcast title, yes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening and tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.